Every time you swipe a card, a decision happens in milliseconds, and most people have no idea how close they came to being blocked. The modern credit card fraud detection system didn't emerge all at once. It evolved piece by piece as fraud itself evolved. And that gap between what banks knew was happening and what they could actually stop is where the real story lies. Let's walk through this exhibit, starting where it all began to matter. For most of the 20th century, credit card fraud was a manual problem. A thief stole your card number. Someone at the bank noticed an odd purchase, say, a fur coat in Miami when you lived in Maine, and they called you. That was the system. No computers, just human judgment and telephone calls. But in the 1970s, something shifted. Computers arrived in banks. Card transactions started flowing through electronic networks, and suddenly, the volume exploded. Millions of transactions per day. No human could possibly review them all. The banks faced a crisis they didn't yet know how to name. So they began building rules. Simple ones at first. If a transaction exceeded a certain dollar amount, flag it. If the card was used in 2 cities within an impossible time frame, flag it. If the merchant category didn't match the cardholder's history, flag it. These weren't predictions. They were if-then statements, automated. By the 1990s, banks realized a hard truth. The more rules they added, the more legitimate transactions got blocked. A traveler heading to London for business would be declined. A grandmother buying a new refrigerator would get a call. The system was too blunt. They needed something smarter. Enter statistical modeling. Banks began collecting decades of transaction data, millions of legitimate purchases, and training algorithms to recognize patterns. Not just isolated rules, but the texture of normal. A machine learning model could now ask, does this transaction fit the shape of what this person usually does? Here's the irony nobody mentions. The better the detection system got, the more sophisticated fraud became. Criminals didn't disappear. They adapted. They tested stolen cards with small purchases first. They used legitimate merchant networks. They hired people to make purchases in person. It became an arms race. Today's systems run in real time. The moment your card number hits a payment processor, it's scored. That score factors in hundreds of variables. Your location, your spending patterns, the merchant's risk profile, the device you're using, even the velocity of other transactions at that same IP address. All in milliseconds. The system doesn't just say yes or no. It assigns a probability. What are the odds this is fraud? If the score crosses a threshold, the transaction gets declined. If it's borderline, the bank might ask for additional verification, a text message, a call, a security question. The thresholds themselves are secrets. Banks don't publish them. What most people don't realize is how much of this happens invisibly. You're approved, your transaction clears, and you never know that the system flagged it as medium risk and let it through anyway. Because false positives, declining real purchases, cost banks money in customer frustration and lost sales. It's a balance. The systems also learn. Every fraud case that slips through, every legitimate transaction that gets declined, that data feeds back into the model. Banks are constantly tuning the algorithm. It's not static. It's alive in a way, evolving against threats it couldn't have anticipated 5 years ago. And here's what keeps the engineers up at night. They still can't catch everything. Fraud losses in the United States alone run into the billions annually. For every sophisticated detection system, there's a criminal finding a gap. The cat-and-mouse game never ends. It just gets more expensive on both sides. That's how modern fraud detection works, not as a wall, but as a series of probabilistic gates. Imperfect, constantly adapting, and designed around a fundamental truth. The system has to let most transactions through, because blocking the wrong ones costs more than letting a few fraudulent ones slip past. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice. Always do your own research. Subscribe to explore more unseen systems that shape how money moves and who profits from the gaps. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice. Always do your own research.